A guy who entered NBA free agency as one of the most coveted names didn't get signed yet because of some off the court issues. But now those issues are in the past. He's about to be one of the most sought out players for the remainder of free agency. Should the Grizzlies get involved? Let's talk about it. Coming up here on Locked On Grizzlies.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies. I am your host today, Damichael Cole, beat writer for the Commercial Appeal right here in Memphis, Tennessee. Tuning in to you on Locked On Grizzlies. We got a lot to talk to you about today, but first of all, thank you for making Locked On Grizzlies your first listen each and every single day. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Make sure you go take advantage of that now over at Monarch Money. As I said in the opening, we got a lot to talk about on today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies. We got to talk about a particular player, a player that might be interesting to some of you, a player that some of you might not like, but that's what this show is going to be about. We're going to talk about the idea of a potential addition or the idea of this guy just not even entertain the idea of this being an addition, and that is one Malik Beasley. Malik Beasley, if you go look at the ballots, I voted him sixth man of the year during the season over Peyton Pritchard. Had a terrific season. Malik Beasley days had a terrific season with Detroit. Set himself up what looked like he was going to have a nice payday. There were reports out there that I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, but I believe it was somewhere around 3 years, $42 million that he was expected to get from Detroit. And then, boom, NBA investigation comes out. And the investigation at the time, there was kind of Malik Beasley was being looked into for potentially gambling. And we know that's a big no-no in terms of NBA players gambling on, the game and whatever the case may be. I mean, you risk not even an suspension. You risk potential jail time. You risk, banishment, all these other things. But when Malik Beasley was under investigation, it pretty much messed up his bag. Completely messed up his bag. And as other guys were being signed, we saw Detroit pivoted away from the idea of bringing Malik Beasley back, and they went out to other guys. They went and got Duncan Robinson, who was that shooter that they needed to replace Malik Beasley. Other teams who were rumored to be interested in Malik Beasley started to go in different directions. And that all led us to now we're here in late August. Free agency is almost 2 months old at this point. Free agents, most free agents are agreeing to contracts, whatever it's June 30th, July 1st, July 2nd, somewhere in that time. Now we're talking August 27th. And Malik Beasley is not only unsigned, but he's one of the top free agents remaining on the board. Should the Memphis Grizzlies get involved? That's what we're about to talk about in this show. I've seen some of you in the comments asking for this topic. I've been waiting to talk about this as well, but let's get into it. First, we're going to talk about the pros. The idea of the pros of bringing along a guy like Malik Beasley, a player of his repertoire. And the number one pro to me, he's going to be cheap. The price has significantly dropped for Malik Beasley. If the Grizzlies were interested, if the Grizzlies were wanting to pursue him, you could bring him in potentially at this point for a minimum contract. Because he's going to have to prove that last season wasn't a fluke now. Whereas before, he was setting himself up for the significant payday. We talked about 3 years, roughly 40 plus million that he was kind of geared up to receive from Detroit. But now he's going to have to put himself in a position where he's got to prove it again. He's going to have to take a prove it contract. And for a team like the Grizzlies, that makes a lot of sense. This is a typical situation of, hey, there's not a lot of risk involved. The reward completely outweighs the risk. If it doesn't work out, who cares? You spent the minimum contract on him, get rid of him or trade him or whatever you want to do. If it does work out, now you got another score with some pop. And that brings me to my next point. Adding Malik Beasley would give the Grizzlies another supreme shooter. If you ask me, what are some of my concerns with this group, this edition of the Grizzlies, this rendition of the Grizzlies? And I say, shooting is something that comes to mind. Remember, we had Scottie Pippen Jr. on the show a few weeks back, and when I was asking him about it, and Scottie basically said, hey, because I asked him in the way that I shaped the question was about how last season the Grizzlies were such a strong shooting team, but you lose Desmond Bane, you lose Luke Kennard, and Scottie talked about kind of what we kind of seen take place this offseason. Like, yeah, they lost some shooting, but they've kind of got better in other areas. So in a way, it was kind of this, hey, look, we might not be as good of a shooting team, but we're going to be a better defensive team. We're going to be better at the point of attack and things like that. But three-point shooting has become such an emphasis in the NBA. It's going to be important for the Grizzlies going forward. Even when the Grizzlies were a really good defensive team, a lot of the issues kind of aligned with the lack of three-point shooting. So I don't want this to be a case of, the Grizzlies are going to be back great defensively and everything's all good. No, you cannot abandon the three-point line. The three-point line has to be just as important. And the progress that this team showed last season has to continue. Even though Desmond Bane's out of the picture, even though Luke Kennard's out of the picture. That seems like a lot. Yes, I know it is a lot. It's going to be hard to replicate that. You might not be able to replicate that exactly, but having a team that's somewhere in the top third of the NBA in three-point shooting would do wonders. Adding this guy gives you that. This is a guy who averaged 9.3 three-point attempts per game last season. 9.3. And for his career, like he shot over 40% from three-point range on those nine attempts. But for his career, Malik Beasley is a 39% three-point shooter. This is some guy who just kind of emerged and just got hot last season and turned into a flamethrower. Malik Beasley has been that. He has been that. Grizzlies fans, you'll remember when the Grizzlies played the Timberwolves in the playoffs. Coming into that series, a big point of emphasis was Malik Beasley off of the three-point line because I believe at the time the Timberwolves were not really known to be a really good three-point shooting team. But a guy like Malik Beasley, who was coming off the bench, was a really terrific three-point shooter for that team. And that brings me to my next point. Malik Beasley is a guy, you don't have to just throw him in the starting lineup. You don't have to bring him off the bench. You don't have to just completely put him in a role off the bench because he succeeded in both. Last season, again, he was one of the top 6 man of the year candidates for Detroit. He closed games, but he didn't start much. He started 14 games last season. You go to the season before that, while playing for the Milwaukee Bucks, he started. So he started for a playoff team the year before, and then last season, he came off the bench for one. That's kind of been the evolution of Malik Beasley over the last 2 years. And I bring that up because we've talked about the questions of, should Kentavious Caldwell-Pope be starting? You got a good idea that Jalen Wells, Ja Morant will be in the starting lineup. Malik Beasley, if you were to entertain the idea of really going after him, that's a potential option. If you say, no, we're not bringing this guy on this late just to be a starter. Well, that's fine. Guess what? Bring him off the bench where he averaged over 16 points last year in Detroit and was one of the top bench scorers, mainly because of the efficient three-point shooting that he has. But he also gets them up in bunches, as we said, over 9 attempts per game. So this is a guy who can start and come off the bench. He adds his supreme shooting. But to me, the best part about the idea of Malik Beasley, he's cheap. He's cheap. I'm all for any player who has credentials in the past who's cheap because at the end of the day, the reward is always significantly, potentially going to outweigh the risk when you're signing a guy for a minimum contract, unless you're going into the luxury tax or anything like that. And the Grizzlies are not at risk of doing just that. So sign me up if the Grizzlies have legit interest, and we're gonna cover this. I'm gonna do some little homework or whatever the case may be. We're gonna see if this is something that the Grizzlies are actually interested in. We'll continue to cover that situation here on Locked On Grizzlies. Coming up in the next segment of Locked On Grizzlies, we talked about the good. What about the potential bad? to the idea of adding a guy like Malik Beasley. Let's talk about that coming up here on Locked On Grizzlies. But before we get to that, today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that is where Monarch Money comes in. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. So if you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. So guess what? Go take advantage of this opportunity right now. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code locked on NBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code locked on NBA. Make sure you go take advantage of that now over at monarchmoney.com. What about the cons? We just hyped up the idea of Malik Beasley, and some of you who probably weren't on board say, "Hey, you just convinced me, Damichael." Some of you probably were already on board and say, "Yeah, that's exactly what I've been telling my friends. That's what I've been telling my family. That's what I've been telling my wife. That's what I've been telling whoever." Now we got to talk about the other side, because hold up, yeah, that's why Locked On Grizzlies is a 30-minute show. We got to talk about the other side of this. It's not all just peaches and creams, especially with Malik Beasley. There are some cons here that we got to weigh, because yes, he's cheap, so very little risk, but there's always risk. There is always risk, and the number one thing that stands out to me when you talk about the idea of adding Malik Beasley is he's undersized and he's not a strong defender. Malik Beasley stands at about 6'4", decent athlete, so to speak, like really good athlete. I say he's a really good athlete, and he's not a strong defender. Not a strong defender. So this is not a guy who, to me, I talked about this a little bit with Ty Jerome, right? Yeah, well, not a little bit, a lot. A lot of you will remember that. When the Grizzlies first signed Ty Jerome, I was saying, they've done all this talking. The Grizzlies, that is, done all this talking about, oh, we want these, we want to bring in these defenders, right, to kind of put around the new dynamic duo, Jaren Jackson Jr., Ja Morant, two-way guys, and we saw what they did in the draft. All these things that they've emphasized, right? But Ty Jerome, to me, didn't exactly fit into that equation, so to speak. And then Malik Beasley, to me, I think is even, Ty Jerome, I think is even a better defender than Malik Beasley. So I think at this point, you're talking about the idea of adding Malik Beasley. Yes, you get the shooting, you get the offense, but if you're putting him on the floor with Ja Morant in bunches, you're going to go through the same problems, probably even more that you have with Ja Morant and Desmond Bane on the floor. And there's not a probably to it. Desmond Bane's a better defender than Malik Beasley and a better overall offensive player. So you factor that in, it's a clear downgrade from that standpoint, from my point of view. Undersized, not really a strong defender, not strong defender at all. He had a negative box plus minus last season, defensive box plus minus on what was a really good defensive team in Detroit. So basically, when Malik Beasley was on the floor, defensive box plus minus was negative, I believe, 1.2 overall. So not really known for his defense, but hasn't been over the course of his career. The number two thing to me kind of goes hand in hand with the number one, and there is some positional overlap here in terms of adding Malik Beasley. If you add Malik Beasley, you already got Cam Spencer, you already got Ty Jerome, you already got Scottie Pippen Jr. Those are the three names that I'm going to hone in on as we talk through the idea of adding Malik Beasley and getting positional overlap. Malik Beasley, let's put it like this. Great three-point shooter, not really known for his defense. Let's simplify it a little bit. Plays the two. Shooting guard, not really a multi-positional guy. Known for his three-point shooting, not really known for his defense. If I ask you about Cam Spencer, you'd probably say shooting guard, great 3-point shooter, not really known for his defense. But people don't talk about Cam like that on his defense because Cam will fight you, literally, when it comes to his defense. He will get out there and compete. But with all that being said, the point is when you got Cam Spencer now, you got a guy who's going to play mostly one position. He can slide over on the ball a little bit as we saw in Summer League, but I don't think the Grizzlies are going to be trying to do that in any regular season games. He's undersized, so you're not going to really try to play him at the 3 much, just like Malik Beasley, a little undersized, 6'3". Both these guys 6'3", 6'4". You're not playing them at the 3. The point is there's positional overlap there. If you want to continue to see what Cam Spencer, we just saw, he just got upgraded from 2-way contract. Now he has a standard contract. If you want to continue to see what this guy can bring to the table, what he can add to the team for years to come, don't block him. Don't block him. Give him an opportunity. And adding Malik Beasley would kind of block him in a way. And then there's the position overlap as it pertains to Ty Jerome and Scottie Pippen Jr. And I'm going to group those two together because here's the thing. In my depth chart and how I see it playing out, Scottie Pippen Jr. and Ty Jerome will both be in the Grizzlies rotation. This isn't a situation where Ty Jerome is the new backup point guard and Scottie Pippen Jr. is going to be playing emergency minutes or whatever the case may be. I think Morant comes out of the game. Scottie Pippen Jr., Ty Jerome will probably be playing some time together. I think Scottie Pippen Jr. is going to play because of his defense more than anything. But then, of course, his scoring is plus. And if he can hone in the turnovers and things like that, Scottie's going to play. Ty Jerome, the 3-point shooting, the Grizzlies need it. He's very accurate, was one of the most accurate 3-point shooters last season. We just talked about the need for that in the first segment as pertaining to Malik Beasley. Ty Jerome is going to play some minutes, and I think those two play really well off of each other. And now, with that being said, with those two playing off of each other, where do you play a Malik Beasley? You're not playing Ty Jerome at the 3. You're not playing Scottie at the 3. And you're for sure not playing Malik Beasley at the 3. And quite frankly, when you got Cedric Coward, Vince Williams Jr., Gigi Jackson, and all these big able-bodied wings, one of them is potentially, at least one of them is going to grab that wing spot. So you got some names. You got some players over there. And the idea of adding Malik Beasley, it kind of puts you in a situation where what happens with Cam, Ty Jerome, or Scottie Pippen Jr. I think if you add Malik Beasley, one of them would not be able to play. And in this case, you know it would be. I mean, Ty Jerome's going to play. So this is wild for me to even say because I just think that Scottie in the playoffs kind of showed I belong in this rotation. I'm going to be in this rotation. But if you were to add a Malik Beasley, because we're talking about the cons now. We're talking about the cons of the idea of adding Malik Beasley. If you would add Malik Beasley, now you're in a situation where Ty Jerome and Malik Beasley are probably your backup, which is probably going to be a pretty, productive offensive secondary bench scoring tandem. But you lose Scottie's defense. You lose the pressure that he provides on the ball. And that has been such a big emphasis for the Grizzlies this offseason. I would be perplexed, to say the least. That's just to say the least. It would be very confusing for me in that way. And shout out to my co-host, Joe Monax. He always likes to point this out about me. And some of you have noticed it as well. But anytime we talk about the idea of adding someone, whether it's through free agency, whether it's through a trade or all of that, I always say, my counterpoint is, okay, who are you going to take off? Because it's easy for everybody to become this, as Joe likes to say, armchair GM and say, hey, I want to go get that guy. Hey, let's go get Kevin Durant. Hey, let's go get Giannis. Hey, let's go get LeBron. Who are you going to trade? How are you? Because there are financial implications. There is a salary cap in place to prevent you from just going out and grabbing who you want. You got to make some moves. So in the case of adding a Malik Beasley, it's simple from the contract standpoint, right? We talked about it in the first segment. He's cheap. He's probably going to be cheap. Maybe there's a team with some of their mid-level exception left that's able to give him more than the veteran minimum. But more than likely, he's going to have to play his way into a bigger contract next offseason. So if he's going for the veteran minimum, there's not much risk there. But when we say who leaves in this case, the Grizzlies 15-man roster is full. All 15 spots have been solidified. So if you add Malik Beasley, you don't have to make the move right now. That's the thing about it. You have to leave training camp with 15 bodies. You don't have to go into preseason training camp with 15 bodies. So you can play preseason games. You can have all these guys available. But when push comes to shove, the NBA season starts. Somebody's got to go. And if you were to add to him, add Malik Beasley, who do you leave? Who do you let go in that case? I don't think there's a clear-cut answer. Not to me. If you guys got a clear-cut answer, let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm all ears. I know some people aren't huge fans of, let's throw a couple names out there just for the sake of the conversation. John Conchar. That is a contract that is much bigger. You're talking about you would have to eat that money. I think Conchar is going to make over $6 million this upcoming season. So you're not just, I mean, it would be something for the Grizzlies to just waive him in that case. I don't see that happen. And then let's say Vince Williams. You got Vince Williams on a very cheap contract, and Vince Williams still believes when he's healthy, he can be that player that we saw 2 seasons ago. If Vince Williams can be that player that you saw 2 seasons ago, that cheap contract that he's on is well worth it. I still think the risk is worth potentially the reward. We're going to talk more about Vince Williams in the next coming episodes. So I want to save some of that. But that's 2 guys right there. Then you got your rookies. Then you got your guys you just signed. Then you got your guys that are returning rotation players. Then you got guys like G.G. Jackson you're expecting to take a leap. There's no clear-cut answer to me. If you go out and get Malik Beasley as someone that you just want to let go, whether it be because of financial reasons, whether it be because of talent, or whatever the case may be, there is not a clear-cut answer. But maybe you guys disagree. If you disagree, let me know if you think there's a clear-cut answer out there. Speaking of clear-cut answers, Malik Beasley isn't the only free agent out there. There are other free agents out there as well. Let's talk about some of those free agents on the market here in a second on Locked On Grizzlies. But before we get to that, we have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping us out. And remember, you will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Make sure you go take advantage of that over at the Locked On Podcast /survey. Make sure you go take advantage of that now on Locked On Podcast Network. We got to talk about some other free agents. We spent all this time talking about Malik Beasley, but he isn't the only one. Malik Beasley is not the only option out there. He's probably the best. He's probably the most notable, whatever the case may be. But let's just refreshen up on the market. At this point, it's late August. You know, it's not, you know, a lot of wow names out there or anything like that. But if you're one of those people who just heard me say who leaves, because it's the same question would need to be asked if you're talking about adding any of these potential names. If you're one of those people who have a clear-cut answer, then you're fine with hearing the names of the available players still out there. There's a list, and there's 6 names I'll rattle off as we talk through the rest of this show. Number one name I want to throw out there is Malcolm Brogdon. If you're a listener of Locked On Grizzlies consistently, shout out to the everydayers. This was a name that I was throwing out there very early on in the process as a guy who could be a two-way player when healthy. He's had a 50-40-90 season. He's been efficient. He was a 6-man, a very good 6-man for Boston Celtics just a few seasons ago. I think 3 seasons ago at this point, 3 seasons ago. I think Malcolm Brogdon, you know, if healthy, that's the key. I mean, that's probably why he's still out there. We don't know what physicals and things have looked like or what NBA teams are hearing on that end. I do not know. But the talent-wise, that guy is well worth opportunity at this point. I do not think his talent is of someone who should be available at this point. Al Horford. If you haven't been keeping up with the Al Horford situation, it's pretty clear. There have been a lot of reports that if he continues to play, he's probably going to go somewhere like Golden State. That's kind of been rumored to be the favorite. Uh, I think we've heard certain reports indicate that Boston still had interest in bringing him back. If you look at Boston's center rotation right now, you wouldn't be surprised that they have interest in bringing a guy back like Al Horford. But it seems like he's going to take his time and make a decision. Al Horford is pretty much, he's near the end, and he's earned the right with a terrific career to do what he wants. A couple Golden State Warrior names that I want to throw out there. Number one I want to throw out is Gary Payton II. Gary Payton II, arguably the best defender left. We see the emphasis that the Grizzlies have put on defense. This was a guy who I thought early on in free agency would be a prime Grizzlies target because of this renewed emphasis on adding perimeter defenders, things like that. We saw they did that much more in the draft. They took the draft route more than going and getting a guy like Gary Payton II. But I think for my money, this is one of the better defenders available at this point in free agency. We'll see, how it kind of continues to play out for him. But I believe Mark Spears reported on ESPN not too long ago that Gary Payton II's market is kind of in wait and see mode because of the next guy that we're going to talk about. That's Jonathan Kuminga. I don't foresee the Grizzlies really getting involved there. Just wanted to point him out because he's probably, you can make an argument, he might be the most talented player available at this point in terms of a young guy who has some really good upside. Going into the right situation, he could probably break out potentially. Now he's a restricted free agent, so that's a little tricky, and that's kind of why he's still technically available at this point. A couple other names to throw out there: Russell Westbrook. We know the history there, right? Russell Westbrook, one of the best point guards of his generation, but also a polarizing one. He never had the highest field goal percentage numbers. He could be turnover prone at time. He was never a really good shooter, but his passing, his energy, the heart he plays with, teams love that. And we've seen him in more of a reserve role in recent seasons. It's been up and down. Like there were moments where he pretty much saved the Denver Nuggets, and there were other moments where Denver just said, you got to get off the floor because we're going to lose this game if we keep playing you. So you get the best of both worlds, for better and for worse, with Russell Westbrook. Another name that I want to throw out there is Precious Achiuwa. Now, Precious, when you talk about a reserve big, athletic, who can rebound, the Grizzlies could always use that. They went and got, some of that with Jock Landale, and we'll see how that plays out. But I believe Precious Achiuwa, with his ability to rebound, his ability to be a switchable defender, and rim running ability, he's another guy who can do some of those things and could be a really cheap option as well. So just wanted to throw a couple other free agency names out there. Any of those names you guys like, let me know in the comments as well. Hey, Damichael, we might not want Malik Beasley, but, Malcolm Brogdon, a little Gary Payton II sounds good. But guess what? If you want to make that move, remember, who leaves? You got to answer that question because the Grizzlies roster is full right now. Guess what? The Grizzlies roster is full. And my schedule is about to be full on Saturdays because it's another big moment on Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. Make sure you guys go check that out. And make sure you guys continue to check out all episodes of Locked On Grizzlies. We'll be back with you on Friday. I believe it'll be just me again on Friday as we continue to talk about things throughout the Grizzlies offseason. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But until then, remember that Locked On Grizzlies is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, anywhere. Until next time, I'm Damichael Cole, and we'll see you on Locked On Grizzlies.